Hi, awesome Algebra 1 students. My name is Mrs. Versailles, and I'm going to teach you concept 6.2c, solving quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. This is the last concept we're learning this year, so write down the title. Today's date, for me, it's April 26, 2021. And then we have two pieces of information that we need to know in order to use the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. The first piece of information is that in order to solve using the quadratic formula, our equation needs to be in standard form. So standard form means it's in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So your equation must be equal to 0 in order to use the quadratic formula. Just like when we were solving by factoring, both factors equaled 0 in order to solve using the zero product property. In order to use the quadratic formula, our equation also has to be equal to 0. So that's standard form. It needs to be in standard form. Write that down. And then also we have to know the quadratic formula. There are different songs that you might have heard of to remember this quadratic formula. But basically, in order to solve for x, right, our goal is to still have x equals a number, x equals another number. We use the formula x equals negative b. B is just that second number in your standard form, plus or minus the square root of b, again, b squared, minus 4 times a, so the first number, times c, the last number, all divided by, right, this is the division sign, 2 times a. So write that down, and then we're going to practice with two examples. Example 1, solve the equation 2x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals 0. So first thing to check is to make sure we're in standard form. Step 1, put in standard form. Now again, what does that mean? Standard form means that you are equal to 0. Notice the x squared is first, and in this example 1 it is, plus some number times x, yep it is, plus some number equals 0. So step 1 is done. We're already in standard form. 2x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals 0. Step 2. Identify your numbers. And the numbers are A, B, and C. So we're going to identify A, B, and C. So A is the number right before x squared, so it's the number 2. B is the number right before x, so that's negative 8. Make sure you keep the negative with it, negative 8. And then C is the constant, which is 4. So step 1, standard form done. Step 2, identify A, B, and C, done. Step 3, use the quadratic formula. We already have it written up at the top of our sheet. I recommend you rewrite that quadratic formula at the top of every homework assignment that you have if it's not written there for you. So to use the quadratic formula, we have x equals, we just have to plug in or input each number in the right spot. So I see I have 2 places to put b, negative 8. I have 2 places to put a, which is 2, and then I have just 1 place to put c, which is 4. So I'm going to input these numbers in the right spots in the quadratic formula. Here's what it'll look like. Negative, and then b, so negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b again, so that's negative 8 squared minus 4. Ooh, now we have a. A was the number 2 here. Number 2 times c, which was the number 4. And then all divided by 2. And then back to the number for a. Last step, once we've used that quadratic formula, is to simplify. So we have to use the order of operations to simplify. And when we're simplifying, we are going to simplify the numbers underneath the square root first. There's a nice expression under there. It actually has its own name. It's called the discriminant. Discriminant. All the numbers underneath the square root is called the discriminant. So we're simplifying here. Oh wait, negative 8, that's just positive 8. Plus or minus, okay, let's simplify the discriminant. Negative 8 squared is negative 8 times negative 8, which is positive 64. Minus 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 4 is 32. And that discriminant, all divided by 2 times 2, which is 4. Ooh, that discriminant can be simplified further. Let me highlight that. Remember, again, the discriminant is everything underneath the square root. So still part of step 4, I'm continuing to simplify here. 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 32. 32, all divided by 4. Now, can I take the square root of 32 and get a nice whole number? No way. It's not a perfect square root, so that is my final answer if I can't simplify that discriminant square root of 32 anymore. Done. Let's look at another example, maybe one that you can simplify further. Here we go, example 2. Solve x squared minus 4x equals 12. Write it down. We're going to follow the same 4 steps. So step 1, put in standard form. So this equation is not in standard form yet, because remember, in standard form, we have to have this equal to 0, and right now we're equal to 12. So I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. So it's positive 12, which gives me x squared minus 4x minus 12. Now that equals 0. Step 1 is done. We're in standard form. Step 2, identify A, B, and C. Remember, A is just the number before x squared. Oh, wait, there's no number there. It's just the number 1. B is the next number right before x. That's negative 4 for this example. Remember, the negative stays with it. And then C is the constant. So that would be negative 12. Step 2, done. Step 3, let's use the quadratic formula. Now I don't have the quadratic formula on this page, so I'm going to rewrite it at the top for myself. Again, I recommend you rewriting this if you don't have it on the same page. So it'll be x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So I'm going to use this quadratic formula. X equals negative. We've got these two spots to put b in. So here's the first spot, negative 4 plus or minus the square root. Okay, now we're moving into the discriminant part here. B squared, so negative 4 squared minus 4 times a, which is the number 1, times c. Ooh, this is the first time we're using c. Remember, we only use c once in this whole quadratic formula. All divided by 2 times a again. So we inputted b in the two spots correctly, a in the two spots correctly, and then c in that one spot correctly. Last step, simplify. So again, we're going to start with that discriminant. Let's write that word again because it's a new word for us. Remember the discriminant. It's just the expression under the square root. Okay, so we're simplifying. X equals, negative 4. That's just positive 4. Plus or minus. Okay, now we're going into the discriminant. Negative 4 squared is the same as negative 4 times negative 4, which is 16. Minus 4 times 1 is 4 times negative 12. 4 times negative 12 is negative 48. All divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay, so that discriminant is not fully simplified yet, so we got to do a little bit more work here. So fully simplify, we do 16 minus negative 48. And feel free to use a calculator on this if you have one, or use a calculator on the internet, Google Calculator. So we got 64. And my brain is thinking, oh my gosh, I can take the square root of 64. So unlike example 1, I can keep going because I can take the square root of 64. Square root of 64 is 8. So keep simplifying. 4 plus or minus 8, all divided by 2. Ooh, I love this problem. So 4 plus or minus 8 divided by 2 means, this looks familiar to us, hopefully. 4 plus 8 divided by 2, and 4 minus 8 divided by 2. 4 plus 8 divided by 2 equals 6. There's my first answer. 4 minus 8 divided by 2 equals negative 2. There's my second answer. So this is how you solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Let us know what questions you have. Otherwise, have a great day.